what's going on, everybody? It's ETA Prime back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the all-new S1 Mini PC from ACEMAGIC. And when it comes to this one here, it's got some really cool features built in that we haven't seen before in a Mini PC, at least in its stock form factor. Like a front-mounted status LCD screen. This is something I've actually added to some Mini PCs using a third-party application and a third-party screen, but here we've actually got it built in up front. You can customize this. We've also got some RGB, and the price on this is actually very reasonable considering the price of Mini PCs nowadays. You know, they can definitely get on up there. And they've managed to keep this thing really small. Now, the first thing I want to show you is this front screen here. This does have Windows pre-installed with an application that will allow us to customize this front panel here. Out of the box, this is what it looked like, but going into the application, we can actually swap this out with some pre-made presets. It'll give us the CPU usage, CPU temp, wattage that CPU is running at. We've also just kind of got a clock system here that you can set up if you want to. And like I mentioned, you can customize this screen so you could add your own images behind everything and basically set it up how you want. We've also got some RGB on the front that's fully controllable from software that comes pre-installed. Inside of the box, along with the S1 Mini PC, we're going to get our power supply. Now this runs on a 12-volt power supply. We've also got a magnetic stand. And this is going to allow us to set this Mini PC up vertically, but you can also use it horizontally if you want to. And given the LCD screen on the front from software, we can swap that to match our orientation. Really easy to set up the stand. It's got built-in magnets and they're pretty strong. This PC isn't that heavy, so it's not going to fall over on the table or anything like that. It is secure once you put this stand on it. But again, you can set this horizontally if you want to. Taking a look at the I/O, around back we've got our power in, dual full-size HDMI ports, dual gigabit Ethernet, and we've got a 3.5mm audio jack. And up top, we've got two USB 2.0 ports and two USB 3.0 ports. Over on their website, they are offering this in two different configurations, and basically the only difference is going to be storage. 512 gigabytes or 1 terabyte, but it's really easy to get in here and upgrade. And no matter which one you get, you're going to get two M.2 slots. Now, one of these is an NVMe M.2 SSD. The other is going to be SATA, but this one happens to have a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. We've also got 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. Unfortunately, the way this is set up, it's only single channel RAM with this Mini PC. And of course, when it comes to the specs, for the CPU, they opted to use the 12th gen Intel N95. This is a 4-core CPU. We've only got 4 threads, up to 20 watts. It does have a boost up to 3.4 gigahertz, built-in UHD graphics up to 1200 megahertz. We've got 16 gigs of that DDR4 single channel at 3200 megahertz. We can add one M.2 NVMe SSD, one SATA M.2 SSD. It does have Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, and it's running Windows 11. And there is some software pre-installed that'll allow us to control the RGB and that front LCD status panel. Now, even though it's running Windows 11, since it's an x86 platform, we could install Linux on this, turn it into a little NAS if you wanted to. But in this video, we're going to take a look at how it performs with Windows 11. We're going to test out some 4K video playback from YouTube. I also want to run some emulators on this and some games just to see what we can do. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Just moving in a bit closer so we can get a better look at everything. As you can see, we've got that Intel N95, 4 cores, no extra threads. 2 of these cores will go up to 3.4. We've got 16 gigabytes of DDR4 running at 3200 megahertz, single channel. Remember, we've only got one DIMM in here. And of course, we've got the Intel UHD graphics. Overall, not a bad little experience here. Web browsing is really snappy with that Wi-Fi 6, and of course, you could use Ethernet if you want to. But everything loads right up. Just heading over to the ACEMAGIC website. And one thing I actually like about this is the price. When you consider other Mini PCs, even with this same chip, this is coming in at, where's the price? $149 right now. And on Amazon, you might be able to find some coupons, so definitely keep an eye out if you're interested in a Mini PC like this. It's definitely not a top-of-the-line gaming machine, but we can get some emulation and older gaming out of the way on this. And 4K video playback on this thing is actually pretty decent. We're going to head over to YouTube and find a nice little demo video to check out. 4K, stats for nerds, full screen. And we've got a couple initial drop frames when starting this up, and throughout you'll see it drop a few more here and there. But you know, if that frame counter wasn't on, I wouldn't even be able to notice it. And right now, this will do up to 20 watts. The BIOS is basically unlocked, and I mean, this chip won't do much more than 20 watts just on the CPU. But when factoring in the iGPU, it may need a little more. So I'd say around 28 watts maximum would be great with this if you wanted to set it up like that from the BIOS. But the next thing I wanted to take a look at was some gaming and especially some emulation. Now when it comes to the N95 CPU with those built-in Intel graphics, we're not going to be able to do newer AAA games. Even at 30 FPS, 720p, some of that stuff is going to be hard pressed to run, but there are quite a few older games that'll run at full speed. And the first one we have here is Dirt 3, medium settings, 1080p. I was actually pretty impressed we were able to do medium with this little chip, but it is an older game. Obviously, not a lot of people are going to be playing this, but this kind of gives you an idea of what kind of performance this iGPU can put out. We are over 60 FPS, and the game still is a lot of fun here. I personally still play it from time to time. Next up, we've got OG Skyrim, and with this, I did go down to 900p low settings. We had a few dips here and there, not too major. We were actually averaging around 54 FPS at 1080 low, but at 900, we can run at a constant 60. And with these settings, I actually haven't seen it dip down at all. Pretty decent performance, and the final one we have here is Left 4 Dead 2. 900p medium settings, we got an average of around 84 FPS. With these older games, you're going to have a pretty decent time with the N95. Half-Life 2, as you saw, we got Skyrim at 900p. There's a lot of older games that are going to run great here, but the most exciting thing about this chip is actually the emulation performance. Here's PSP using the standalone version of PPSSPP, DirectX 11 backend, Chains of Olympus, 2x resolution, 60 FPS. We're at 2x with this game, so the easier to emulate stuff will be able to be upscaled a bit more. We could go up to 1080 with a lot of the stuff. Next up, we've got some GameCube using the Dolphin emulator, DirectX 11 backend, native resolution, Time Splitters 2, and of course this is an easier one to emulate. We'll get to a harder one in a second. But yeah, I mean, this is some pretty good performance, and some of these games may perform better with Vulkan, but the next one here is Auto Modellista, one that I always like to test. Not the hardest game to emulate, I consider it about a mid-range game. Native resolution, DirectX 11, running at a constant 60 FPS. And this is at the stock TDP. Remember, we've got that boost up to 20 watts. So if you did run into a game that doesn't perform well here, there's a chance we could get a little more out of it by upping the TDP from the BIOS. But the last emulator I wanted to test here was PS2 using PCSX2. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, 720p, DirectX 11 backend. Again, just like GameCube, you might find that Vulkan will perform better with some games, but with what I tested here, DirectX did a really good job. And the final one was God of War 2. This was the most impressive, but I did have to turn a few hacks here and there on with the emulator itself, and we're only at the native resolution of the PS2, so we can't upscale this one, but it is running quite well. Another thing I always like to monitor with these mini PCs is total system power consumption. So while I'm doing all my testing, this is plugged into a kilowatt meter at the wall, and this is everything that this mini PC can pull. Idle, up to 5 watts. While gaming, around 18 watts, and the maximum that I could get this to draw from the wall was 23 watts. So it's a very low power consumption mini PC, and of course it is with that Intel N95. This was not meant to be a AAA gaming machine, but as you saw, I mean, with older games, we can definitely play some at 900p, some can go up to 1080p, and when it comes to emulation, we did up to PS2, and I think that's about the extent that this thing can do, and there may be some PS2 games that this thing just can't handle. But overall, I think it's a solid little mini PC. You got to know what you're going to expect when getting this. Again, you're not going to be doing AAA games at 1080p on this. But if you're looking for an inexpensive PC that'll get you by with your daily PC tasks like web browsing, video playback, document editing, checking your email, then the S1 might be a great option for you. And if you're interested in learning a little more, I will leave some links to their official website. You can head over there now. Also leave some links to Amazon. I believe they do have a store over there. But if there's anything else you want to see running on the ACEMAGIC S1, just let me know in the comments below. And that's going to wrap it up for this one. But like always, thanks for watching.